The Play Action podcast is fueled by Picasso's Pizza, where every night is pizza night.
Welcome to a special edition of the Play Action podcast fueled by Picasso's Pizza. We are holding a live season kickoff virtual event with Buffalo News subscribers and the Play Action podcast followers. We're thrilled you're here. I am Mark Gaughan, and I am part of the team of reporters that covers the Bills year-round. There is no Bills offseason at the Buffalo News, as our readers know. And with me are Katherine Fitzgerald, Jay Skurski, and Ryan O'Halloran, and we all cover the Bills 52 weeks of the year. We're here to discuss the start of the season, what we expect, what we're excited to see. It has been, by my unofficial count, 228 days since the last Bills game. And so the next one is almost here, Monday night, the opener against the Jets. You know, to start off, let's go with the offense first. The Bills have been a top 5 offense in the NFL 3 years in a row. Second in the league last year in scoring, second in the league last year in yards. So can they be better? Let's go, just throw it out, big picture. Keys to the offense being a top 5 offense again, or keys to the offense being better than last year in your eyes. We're going to, as we see everyone on the screen here, let's start with Katherine, Jay, Ryan, and then I'll finish. Katherine, what do you see as one big key to the offense?
This is probably recency bias because I just wrote about him this week, but I'm excited to see Stefon Diggs, what he does this year. Obviously, well documented this offseason, kind of, he wants them to win so badly. It led to a little frustration. I think it's all smoothed over and good, but just kind of that dynamic playmaking ability between him and Josh Allen. I think that'll be on display really quickly this season. Last year, it kind of tapered off as the season went on a bit. So I think it's more maintaining it throughout the year and just to see how explosive they can be, particularly in an offense where there's a lot of weapons there.
Just to follow up on that and sticking with your point, what do you think about, or what does anybody else think about, let's say defenses know Stefon is super competitive, double cover him, try to frustrate him with intense coverage and make Josh go somewhere else with the ball. Do you think that's going to be in the minds of some defensive coordinators? Getting in Stefon's head, is that a factor or not something anybody should be worried about?
I'll take this one. I'll start off by saying the benefit for those watching this is you're not having to listen to Jason Garrett right now on NBC just basically say nothing. But about the Diggs thing, and one of the points I was going to raise is teams are going to try and take him away, and in some games it's going to work because they're going to have good people on defense. But is Gabe Davis really a number 2? Is it Dalton Kincaid, the rookie tight end? Is he the number 2? What's Dawson Knox's involvement? So I think that's one of the questions going into the season is Diggs is your one, no doubt. There's very few of those guys in the NFL. He's one of them. But who is going to emerge? Because if he, again, has 60 more catches than anybody else on this team, I think this offense is going to spin its wheels a little bit in crunch time in January.
Catherine, last before we finish this, you had a one-on-one with Stefon this week. Just where do you think his headspace is?
He's excited. We talked a lot about how he tries to motivate teammates to get the best out of him. And it was really fun to kind of dive into that, how, he's giving his advice, but he's competitive. So he's trash talking. I loved seeing how that played out during training camp preseason with Siran Neal in particular of, Diggs would get at him if he thought he was holding too much because he's like, this is not going to work in a game. Let me teach you what you need to do to me. And then Siran would be like, no, I was good actually. And, they would kind of bicker back and forth, but then Siran makes a big play in the preseason. Stefon Diggs is the first one out there to congratulate him. So I think he's excited to see his teammates out on the field again, particularly how last season ended. And it's been fun to just kind of see what he's done throughout this training camp while being very fiery, very competitive like he always is, but focusing that on his teammates, trying to get them to improve too.
All right, great. Ryan? Up to you. One key to the offense being improving this year, even if it's not necessarily better, improving statistically, but functionally being better.
Yeah, they got to run it better. Josh Allen cannot be their best short yards running back. They acknowledge that by signing Damian Harris, by signing Latavius Murray. James Cook returns for his second year. I think it's going to be a by committee there. Whoever has the hot hand, whoever's not fumbling, and then get down to the goal line. I think Murray will be that guy instead of having Josh Allen try and run a power sweep. So I think that's going to be a key is can they run it when other teams know they're going to run it?
Okay, I've got a stat in just to preview a story coming in, I believe, Monday's paper, our play action column. First meeting with the Jets last year, Bills running backs averaged 3.25 a carry against the Jets. Jay, up to you. One big key to the offense functionally being a little improved.
I mean, I guess it's really stating the obvious, beyond the obvious, but they've got to keep Josh Allen healthy. And for me, that goes to the offensive line. I think their tackle play has to be better. I did not like what I saw from Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins in the preseason, particularly in that Pittsburgh game, which is the quote unquote dress rehearsal for the starters. Getting beat off the edge by speed was concerning, right? Because, you can talk all you want about that being the preseason, but losing to speed on the edge is losing to speed on the edge. It doesn't matter if that's in August or October or November. And so those two players in particular, for me, Dawkins and Brown, are X factors this season. There's really no tackle depth at all to speak of on this roster. So they're not going to be pushed. And I know, Mark, you wrote a column that fans need to have a long rope with Spencer Brown. I agree with that. But, they've got to keep Josh Allen upright. As Ryan alluded to, they don't want him to be their number one rushing threat. And I think that's part of keeping him healthy too. You go back to last year, and I know he didn't miss any games, and he hasn't missed any games for a long time here. But how much did that elbow injury impact him? The injury that he suffered against the Jets in New York in the Meadowlands in that first meeting. If you remember that play, yes, it happened in the pocket, but it happened because David Quessenberry offered basically no protection, and the Jets edge rusher was able to get there and get a hand there. So, you're not going to be able to keep him entirely clean all season. He's going to take sacks. We know that he's going to get hit, but you need to give him more time. And I think, I look at what the Bengals and the Chiefs have done around Mahomes, around Burrow. They have invested heavily in that offensive line. I wouldn't say that the Bills invested heavily this offseason. I mean, they did spend a second-round pick on Osiris Torrance, but is that enough? So I think the offensive line for me is key in keeping Allen healthy.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, they did invest in the interior of the line. Right. And if you had to pick the interior of the line, if the quarterback can't step up, that's disaster. But they invested in the interior while giving colossal votes of confidence to the edges.
Correct.
So, correct. All right, I will wrap this up with my pick. And that would be, look, they have been top 5 3 years in a row. This is a good offense. As long as Josh Allen's there, it's going to be a good offense. I want to see their quick game, passing game be better. And I think we will get a big look at that right in week 1 against the Jets, because you can't hang on to the ball forever against the Jets pass rushers and the Jets defensive line. Last year, Isaiah McKenzie, he was, you got to love Isaiah McKenzie as a person, but Josh didn't trust him, wouldn't throw him the ball. So they need better quick game. So obviously enter Dalton Kincaid. So it's a lot to ask a rookie to step in right away, but they need Dalton Kincaid to be good, and they need somebody in the slot receiver position, the number 3 receiver position, to step up. Josh has to be better pushing the easy button on the passing game. He's unbelievable, so that he doesn't have to put on his Superman cape and run around for 4.7 seconds and make a 28-yard throw on a dime on the sideline, which he does, but they lived on that too much. Okay, second question, big picture. Key, the defense. Defense was 6th in yards last year, 2nd in points allowed. The schedule is tougher. Just look at the roster of quarterbacks they're going to play this year. So key to the defense being a top 5 defense, Same order. Katherine, you're first.
I think it'll be really critical to see what Terrell Bernard does at middle linebacker. Sean McDermott just named him officially the starter yesterday, right? This week's been so long already. But, just so recently, he missed a lot of time in the preseason with that hamstring injury, and he's stepping into a huge role. I think missing some of those reps from just a communication standpoint, that's hard. So I think, it's not just playing football at that position. It's calling all the defense or relaying all the calls to the defense. It takes on so much more there. I had a really interesting talk today with Christian Kirksey, who's new to the Bills on the practice squad right now, who was saying you have to be, it's so mental and physical at the same time that you can get mentally exhausted at that position. So it's a big jump for the second year linebacker, Bernard. And I think that's going to be key to just keeping this defense together. He's got so many veterans around him. It's a solid defense for sure. But I think early on in the season, that'll be kind of where maybe some changes will show up. It's just he kind of still adjusts to this big change.
Yeah. Quick vote. Ryan and Jay, does Christian Kirksey start a game in the first 8 weeks?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Next, Ryan, you're up. Key to the defense being a legitimate top 5 defense.
Yeah, can the pass rush hold down the fort till Von Miller comes back? It disappeared when Von tore his ACL last Thanksgiving. They signed Leonard Floyd, who has a history of getting to the quarterback, but Greg Russo's got to be a double-digit sack guy. AJ's got to be a 7.5 guy. Shaq Lawson's got to contribute. And I think the other thing with this pass rush is you got to get some interior push. I mean, quarterbacks, if they get edge pressure, they're going to step up. Interior pressure, they got nowhere to go. They're throwing it away or force some throws. So I think that falls on Ed Oliver's guy's new contract. He's got to be more of a force, I think, in all phases of the game, but particularly as a pass rusher.
Jay, the question to you.
Yeah, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer need to hold off Father Time. They have been terrific players here for a long time, starting year 7 together. It's basically unheard of in today's NFL to have 2 players that have been that good stay together for that long, to each have signed now multiple contracts with the team. They have been everything that you could have hoped that they would be when they originally signed here back when Sean McDermott started here. That said, obviously Hyde is coming back from a really serious injury, and we know that Poyer went through it last year with multiple injuries. They are on the other side of 30 now, and I think both of them realize that their run here in Buffalo is nearing an end, and I think there's some desperation on their part to finally bring a championship here. They have, if the Wall of Fame was still a thing, I think both of them have made pretty compelling cases. That's how good they've been in Buffalo. But they've got to continue to do it for at least one more year. So can they squeeze another year of healthy, productive football out of both of those two?
Jay, you think Hyde and Poyer each play 14 games this year or more? 14?
Not both of them. I think one of them will hit that number, but I do not think both of them will make it that, especially with Poyer and the style that he plays. He's not the biggest guy. We've said that for a long time. The guy's a warrior. He's as tough as they come. But I just don't know that he can stay healthy for a 17-game season.
And, as we've written, they were really lucky to have Poyer. I mean, it was just through a fluke in the free agency order. I mean, 18 starting safeties hit free agency all in the same year. It was crazy. And Poyer was, suffered from that, because if it wasn't such a bonanza year, if it wasn't such a buyer's market, Poyer would have been gone. But they were lucky to keep him. So
and I think that recent injury history and age played into that. And we should point out here too that in signing Taylor Rapp, I think they have given themselves a look at least one potential future replacement for either Hyde or Poyer.
Right, because Poyer has 2 years to go, and this is Hyde's last year under contract. Correct. Okay. All right. My answer, I'm going to agree, or I'm going to follow up on what Ryan said, and say Leonard Floyd is a big key. I view him as they were kind of fortunate to sign him very late in the free agency season. Von Miller is out at least the first 4 games. I think it's crazy to rush Von Miller back. He is 34, right? 34. And I mean, you need Von Miller for December and January. And if you aren't good enough to get in position till January, then you aren't good in December, then it's not worth it anyway. So Floyd is the other starter opposite Rousseau. Floyd had 29 sacks over the last 3 years, pretty consistent, like 10, 9, and 9.5, 29.5 sacks. He is coming off maybe a less successful year with a bad Rams team last year, but he still had like 9.5 sacks last year. They need him to hold down the fort. And really, in Sean McDermott's defense, we'll see how he coaches defense, but this defense is predicated on getting heat with a 4-man pass rush. So I view Floyd as a huge key. Okay, on to our third and final big picture question. As we're gathering, again, our attendees, please feel free to drop a question into the chat. You may not see other people's questions, but our moderator, our sports editor, Josh Barnett, will be funneling them to us. So feel free to drop chat questions in there. Third question for our roundtable. The area of the team you're least confident in, or your biggest worry, the biggest worry, least area of confidence for you, and where the Bills stand as they enter the season opener. Katherine, you first.
I don't want to repeat too much of Jay from before, but I think the offensive line still has some questions there. So I think just kind of, it's so critical to keep Josh Allen healthy and everything. So making sure they're as sturdy as they can be, I would say, is the biggest question.
Josh, I should add, as a follow to that, did have the highest passer rating under pressure in the NFL last year. It was like 97.6. So he is, their best friend because, he bails them out when they have pressure. But he's probably going to have to be good under pressure again. Ryan, to you.
Who on this team is going to make a play at corner? Last year, interceptions, Hoyer with 4, Milano with 3. No corner had more than 2, with Dane Jackson and Kyer Elam. I think the Benford Jackson sort of going to be a rotating at corner. Is Trey White back to pre-ACL form? Not only are they going against great quarterbacks, they're going against great receivers. So I think that's a question mark. Is who's going to emerge on this team as a corner and be that no doubt stopper.
Okay. All right. Jay?
So Katherine kind of built on my answer about the offensive line. So I'm going to build on hers about middle linebacker. I think replacing Tremaine Edmunds is going to be a bit more of a challenge than maybe this team and certainly this fan base thought it would be. Edmunds was an interesting guy in that I don't know that fans ever totally warmed up to him, but I will tell you that coaches and players just marveled at his talent, his physical talent. And yeah, I wrote, and I think all of us have said at different times that we would have liked to have seen more of those splash plays from him, those big game-changing plays that really the guy next to him, Matt Milano, has sort of specialized in making. But Tremaine Edmunds, just by sheer size alone, made a lot of plays in that quarterbacks didn't attempt certain throws when he was in the middle of the field. Terrell Bernard, if he ends up winning the job, is not remotely in the same class physically as Tremaine Edmunds. And I think that is going to be a big difference in the middle of this Bills defense. And what does that look like? I think there's a lot to be said about Edmunds in terms of not really appreciating what you had until it's gone. And so I think replacing him early in the year, we're going to learn a lot about just how tough that is for this defense.
Yeah, there's no arguing that. That being said, I'm not giving the coaches a free pass to use middle linebacker as an excuse. They've got one of the highest paid the 12th highest paid defensive tackle in the league in Ed Oliver. They've got a big free agent expenditure in Daquan Jones. Floyd was a first-round pick. Rousseau is a first-round pick. Milano's an all-pro. Trey White is a first-round pick. They don't have a first-round pick at the other corner while their first-round pick is sitting on the bench. They got two of the best safeties. So if you can't make it work with this defense, there's no excuses. My attitude is, I don't care who you roll out there at middle linebacker. He's playing with huge investments all over the place. Make it work.
Hey, real quick, Mark. That's why Sean McDermott's calling the plays right now.
Yeah.
Because he obviously
expand on that.
He obviously didn't think Leslie Frazier maximized the talent on this defense. So, I mean, that's a subplot for me is, are we going to notice what the changes are when Sean calls the defensive plays? Because if he was happy with the play calling, Leslie Frazier would still be here.
Yes, that's judge them by what they do, not what they say. There's no doubt about it. If he was completely satisfied, Leslie Frazier would not have stepped away. 100%. Maybe we'll get into that in a little bit, what we can expect on defense. I'm going to keep, I'll just go the very obvious and sort of follow up on Katherine's point. Biggest concern is keeping Josh Allen healthy. As long as he's healthy, the floor is extremely high. 11 wins, a lot would have to go wrong for them to win a tremendous amount, for them to win 9 or 10. If Josh Allen plays 17 games, they should get to 11. Let's wrap it up with predictions. This is something to look forward to in our season preview, which is coming out in print tomorrow. But let's go around the table and tell us, who do you have winning the AFC East, and who do you have winning the Super Bowl? And within your AFC East prediction, you can tell us where you have the Bills. Who wants to go first?
Katherine.
Okay. I did have the Bills winning the AFC East. I think I had the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. I don't know. Again, fun matchup.
Yeah. Okay. Jay?
I also have the Bills winning the AFC East. I have waffled all offseason between 11-6 and 12-5, so I can't even really remember exactly what I said. Ask me one day, and my answer will change to the next day. And I believe that I agreed with Katherine on the Eagles winning the Super Bowl over the Bengals.
Okay.
11-6, Bills win the division, having losing at Cincinnati in the AFC title game, and I have the Bengals over the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Okay, I've got the Jets winning the division in a tiebreaker with the Bills at 12 wins, and I have Cincinnati winning the Super Bowl. If they stay healthy, I think they have the best offensive firepower in the league. So. I hope, thank you all for tuning in to this podcast, and thank you to all who are going to watch the replay of it. You can look for the Buffalo News' NFL season preview in tomorrow's print edition, Friday's print edition. I'd like to thank the audience for joining our special edition of the Play Action podcast, fueled by Picasso's Pizza. Please join us every week through the Bills season for more football insights and discussion on the Play Action podcast and buffalonews.com and wherever you get your podcasts.
Treat your team to the most flavorful pizza on game day at Picasso's Pizza. 4 great Western New York locations: Williamsville, West Seneca, Lancaster, and Blaisdell. Picasso's. We are Buffalo's Pizza since 1980. Order online today at picassospizza.net.